Once upon a time, in a beautiful and peaceful city called Pana, there lived a wealthy man named Chibuzor. He was a highly successful and renowned businessman in the city, admired and respected by everyone. Chibuzor was married to a beautiful and virtuous woman named Ngozi, and their love for each other was deep and unwavering. However, despite their happiness, there was one thing missing in their lives. They desperately longed for a child. They had been trying for months to conceive, but their efforts proved futile. Each time Ngozi became pregnant, she would suffer a miscarriage as soon as the pregnancy reached the 3-month mark. In search of a solution, they consulted the best gynecologists in the country. After numerous tests, the doctors assured them that there was nothing physically wrong with either of them. Despite these reassurances, the miscarriages continued, and years went by without success. Over time, Ngozi became terrified of getting pregnant again, haunted by the fear of another loss. Through it all, Chibuzor's love for Ngozi remained steadfast. He was determined to stay faithful to her, no matter the circumstances. But then, one fateful night changed everything. That night, Chibuzor was on his way back from his business place when he saw a very old woman standing by the roadside. Surprised at her presence so late on such a lonely route, he drove past but quickly stopped his car a few miles ahead and reversed back to offer her help. The old woman remained silent when he asked where she was headed, only pointing down the road. Despite finding this odd, Chibuzor opened the front door for her, and once she was seated, he continued driving. As he drove on, an eerie silence filled the car. After several miles, the old woman pointed to a narrow, peculiar path leading into a dense forest. Chibuzor parked at the entrance and got out to open her door. As she stepped down and he was about to bid her good night, the old woman spoke in a husky yet frail voice. "Chibuzor, you're a good man. Not every man would stop to help an old woman stranded by the roadside. Most would rather stop for a beautiful young lady. I will help you. Take this potion and give it to your wife. When she drinks it, she will conceive a child of destiny." She handed him a small bottle containing a glowing liquid and walked away into the forest, disappearing into the shadows. Stunned, Chibuzor wondered how she knew his name and the details of his wife's struggles. He took the potion home and narrated the strange event to Ngozi. They were both skeptical, but after some hesitation, Ngozi decided to drink it, reasoning that nothing worse could happen. That night, Ngozi had a peculiar dream. She stood before a small hut deep in a dark forest, cradling a newborn baby in her arms. Her heart brimmed with joy until 2 hefty men emerged from the forest armed with spears. Terrified, Ngozi knelt and pleaded for mercy, but they were unmoved. One snatched the baby from her. As she cried out in agony, an old woman appeared from nowhere and ordered the men to return the baby to her. Although displeased, they obeyed. Then the old woman vanished as mysteriously as she had appeared. Ngozi woke up, her heart pounding, unsure of the dream's meaning. She prayed briefly and fell back asleep. The next morning, Ngozi began feeling nauseous and went to the hospital. There, she received shocking news. She was pregnant. Despite her joy, she felt a mysterious connection between the pregnancy and her dream. Still, memories of her previous miscarriages weighed heavily on her, leaving her torn between hope and fear. 3 months passed, and contrary to her fears, she didn't lose the baby. For the first time ever, she carried a pregnancy beyond the 3-month mark. After 9 months, Ngozi gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Overjoyed, Chibuzor recalled the old woman's promise and suggested naming the child Destiny. Destiny grew into a beautiful, intelligent young girl, inheriting her mother's lovely features and her father's sharp mind. Chibuzor and Ngozi cherished her deeply, and the family lived happily until one fateful day. Chibuzor attended a naming ceremony for his friend Nonso, who was celebrating the birth of his son. During the party, someone remarked how lucky Nonso was to have a son to carry on his name, and another person added that a man without a son is like a tree without branches. Though these words weren't directed at Chibuzor, they struck him deeply. A seed of doubt took root in his heart, making him question his legacy since he had only a daughter. Despite Chibuzor's deep love for Ngozi and Destiny, he began brooding over the idea of having a son. Feeling burdened by these concerns, he finally opened up to Ngozi. One evening, he softly told her, "Destiny is a blessing to us, but our lineage needs a son." His words stung Ngozi, but she calmly reminded him that their family was complete. Recalling the ordeal they went through before having Destiny, she felt uneasy when he announced his decision to take another wife. Ngozi was shocked, but, with no other solution to offer, reluctantly agreed, making one request, that he marry her friend, Chidinma, who was still single. Ngozi believed that if Chibuzor married someone she trusted, peace would prevail in their home. A month later, Chibuzor married Chidinma and brought her into the household. Things were pleasant at first. Chidinma treated Ngozi and Destiny kindly. But when Chidinma became pregnant, her attitude toward Ngozi changed drastically. She stopped respecting her and began treating Destiny harshly. Ngozi tried not to dwell on the sudden shift, hoping it was due to pregnancy hormones. After 9 months, Chidinma gave birth to a baby girl named Ozioma. Disappointed that he hadn't gotten a son, Chibuzor nevertheless had to accept it. The peaceful atmosphere shattered as Chidinma grew more disrespectful toward Ngozi, insulting her viciously over minor disagreements. With time, Ngozi conceived again, unexpectedly. While this news brought hope to Ngozi and Chibuzor, it fueled Chidinma's jealousy. Her friends poisoned her mind with the idea that if Ngozi gave birth to a boy first, Chidinma might be cast aside. Desperate to secure her place, Chidinma learned of a powerful witch doctor rumored to grant any wish. Claiming to have family matters to attend to, Chidinma traveled to an ancient village to find him. After days of searching, she found a small, eerie hut deep in a forest. Inside, the witch doctor immediately recognized her desires: to make Ngozi lose her pregnancy, to bear a son, and to secure her husband's unconditional love. He offered her 2 items. First, a dried leaf containing a white substance to be mixed into Ngozi's food or drink, ensuring she would lose the pregnancy within a week. Second, a potion to mix into Chibuzor's meal, so he would love her unconditionally and yield to her every wish. However, the witch doctor warned her that Chibuzor must never eat a meal cooked entirely by her alone. If he did, he would regain his senses, and Chidinma would go mad. For a male child, the witch doctor demanded something even more disturbing: that she sleep with a madman at midnight. The child born from such a union must never set eyes on his father, or he would lose his mind and die in 3 days. Despite the horrifying conditions, Chidinma's ambition outweighed her doubts. She carried the items home and put her plan into action. That evening, she cooked a special meal, lacing Ngozi's portion with the white powder. She approached her co-wife, knelt, and pretended to beg for forgiveness for her past behavior. Ngozi, ever compassionate, forgave her wholeheartedly. Then Chidinma gave Ngozi the poisoned food as a peace offering. Next, she fed Chibuzor the meal mixed with the potion, ensuring he ate enough to be affected. Finally, she traveled to a distant town where no one knew her, and fulfilled the witch doctor's last requirement: sleeping with a madman at midnight. That night she went looking for a madman. When she saw on, she dressed up like a mad woman and did the abominable with the madman. Upon returning, she learned that Ngozi had fallen gravely ill and was hospitalized. She pretended to be worried, but in truth, she merely expected Ngozi to lose the baby and recover. Days passed, and Ngozi's condition worsened. She eventually passed away 5 days later, a tragic outcome Chidinma hadn't expected. Overwhelmed with guilt, but unwilling to relinquish her newfound power, Chidinma took complete control of the household. Chibuzor, fully under her spell, did her bidding without question. Destiny was turned into a housemaid, forced to do all the chores and treated cruelly. Meanwhile, Chidinma showered Ozioma with love and enrolled her in a prestigious school, leaving Destiny in rags, unkempt, and out of school. 2 months after Ngozi's death, Chidinma discovered she was pregnant again. She then stopped doing any housework, forcing Destiny to shoulder every task. Whenever Destiny complained to Chibuzor, he dismissed her pleas. In time, Chidinma gave birth to a baby boy, finally achieving what she had schemed for. Chibuzor felt both elation at having a son and lingering sorrow over the loss of Ngozi. Chidinma's behavior grew worse. She completely deprived Destiny of any privilege, even preventing her from going to school, while Ozioma continued to enjoy the best of everything. Destiny endured the harsh treatment, hoping her suffering would one day end. Years passed, and Destiny, Ozioma, and Chidinma's son grew into young adults. One day, Chibuzor's wealthy friend returned from abroad and proposed that one of Chibuzor's daughters marry his son, Emika. Chibuzor was thrilled by the prospect, but Chidinma was determined that her daughter, Ozioma, should be chosen. Every time Emika visited, Chidinma sent Destiny away on errands so he would only meet Ozioma. However, on a day Emika stopped by a supermarket to buy gifts, he encountered Destiny by chance. Recognizing her from a photograph he'd seen at Chibuzor's home, he was immediately drawn to her. They introduced themselves without revealing the deeper connection each had to Chibuzor's family. Emika began arranging his visits so he could accidentally run into Destiny whenever Chidinma sent her out. Slowly, they grew close. Destiny shared her painful experiences at home, her father's strange apathy, and her stepmother's cruelty, but neither of them yet realized that Emika was the same man seeking a wife in Chibuzor's family. One fateful day, Chidinma became hungry while Destiny was out. She prepared a meal for herself. Later, Chibuzor came home, also hungry, and unknowingly ate the leftovers of Chidinma's meal. That single act broke the witch doctor's spell. Chibuzor suddenly regained his senses and noticed how unkempt Destiny looked. When she tearfully explained what had been happening all these years, Chibuzor, horrified and enraged, confronted Chidinma. At that moment, the witch doctor's warning came to pass. Chidinma realized in terror that Chibuzor had eaten her cooking. She began stripping off her clothes and raving uncontrollably. Alarmed, Chibuzor and the children rushed her to a psychiatric hospital. When they arrived, her son, Uchenna, caught sight of the madman who was his biological father among the patients. Immediately, Uchenna started behaving erratically. He was also admitted and sedated. When Chidinma regained consciousness, she broke down and confessed everything. How she orchestrated Ngozi's death, placed a charm on Chibuzor, and slept with a madman to conceive a son. She admitted that she had never truly loved Chibuzor and had only been after his wealth. Overcome with remorse, Ozioma apologized to Destiny for her past cruelty, and they embraced, seeking a new beginning. Soon after, Emika came to visit, and Destiny was stunned to realize he was the same man who had been arranging visits to their home to find a wife. Overjoyed, he formally asked for her hand in marriage. Chibuzor, now free from the spell, approved wholeheartedly. Destiny and Ozioma both enrolled in the university, and Destiny graduated with honors. She and Emeka married and had beautiful children. Years later, Destiny took over Chibuzor's company alongside Ozioma, expanding it and making their father proud.